Peace and good, and greetings once again from the Shrine of St. Anthony here in Ellicott City, Maryland. We thank you for joining us once again for this, what has become kind of an ongoing series of reflections on one of the readings you're not likely to hear too much about when you come to church on Sunday this week. This week we're looking at the readings for the 31st Sunday at Ordinary Time. And as we've been doing, we're looking at the second reading today, which is from the letter to the Hebrews. And we've been reflecting upon that letter for a number of weeks now. We have a few more to go, actually. And in that letter to the Hebrews, as we said, the text is directed towards an audience of Jews who had become Christian, right? People who had been raised, born, lived within that Jewish tradition, and with the coming of Jesus and the development of the church, the teachings of the apostles, many Jews had become what we would call Christians. And this text, Hebrews, is aimed at helping them to kind of understand what it means to be Christian through the lens of their tradition. And last week we began a reflection upon the references in the letter to the Hebrews to the high priest, right? And Jesus as the new high priest. You know, Jesus as the ultimate expression of what it meant to be, or what it means to be, more importantly, right? The high priest. Last week, in our reflection, we saw how there was the human dimension of that priesthood, the human side of Jesus. We often lose sight of that fact that Jesus is both human and divine, and we have a hard time getting our heads around that notion that some being could be both divine and human. It almost rubs against nature to think that the divinity would not just kind of wipe out the human part, but that's not the case. As our faith teaches us, Jesus was truly divine, but truly human. Today, we're going to reflect upon a little bit about the divine aspect of his high priesthood. One of the things that we haven't talked too much about is the dating of this text. When was this text written? Because knowing that information would help us to better interpret it. Unfortunately, we can't date it terribly accurately. There's a lot of opinions, but there's a rather wide window of when it might have been written. It seems to have been written clearly after or at the time of Nero's persecution of Christians in Rome. So that was around 66 AD, and the burning of Rome and the destruction of Rome and being blamed on the Christians. And indeed, within Rome, there would have been Jews who had become Christians. We also know that around the 49 AD, that Jews had been banished from Rome. So there was clearly tensions. So if you were a Jew and a Christian, by the year 66, there was huge tensions in your life. We also know that in 70 AD, so just 4 years after the destruction of Rome, right, the Roman centurions came into Jerusalem and destroyed the temple and put an end to the priesthood. So the priesthood, as Jesus knew it, as that world knew it for a long centuries and centuries, came to a sudden, shocking end. And therefore, to talk about the priesthood within a Christian context was very helpful to those people who had been Jews and had become Christians. So therefore, the dating's a little difficult. You know, was this text written before the end of the temple? Now, today's reading makes it sound like it was written after the destruction of the temple, after the end of the priesthood, because of the verb tenses, and that's a little technical for what we normally do here, but it's important. What we can say definitively is this text was read and received by communities of Jewish Christians who eventually knew the destruction of the temple and were trying to make sense of who they were and where they were going. And therefore, this letter speaks to that. So, given all that, let's listen to the reading. Brothers and sisters, the Levitical priests were past tense, were many, because they were prevented by death from remaining in office. But Jesus, because he remains forever, has a priesthood that does not pass away. Therefore, he is always able to save those who approach God through him, since he lives forever to make intercession for them. It was fitting that we should have such a high priest, holy, innocent, undefiled, separated from sinners, higher than the heavens. He has no need, as did the high priests, to offer sacrifice day after day, first for his own sins and for those of the people. He did that once for all when he offered himself. For the law appoints men subject to weakness to be high priests, but the word of the oath, which was taken after the law, appoints a son, who has been made perfect forever. This reading is a powerful witness to the divinity of the new high priest, that unlike the high priests of the past, right, and very well we could be speaking historically truly of the past, after the destruction of the temple, after the end of the temple worship, right, that high priesthood passed away. Those high priests were human beings. They were men. They were chosen by God, we could say, to be that role, but that was a role limited to this world, right? With their death, their priesthood ended, and a new high priest was selected, and a new high priest took that ministry. You might remember a few weeks ago, and this is very related to this text, it appears right before this text, a reference to Melchizedek. Remember, we heard in this text, and we hear from scriptures, that Jesus, the Son of God, is described as, you are a priest forever in the line of Melchizedek. What do we know about Melchizedek? Almost nothing. But what we do know, what the tradition holds, is that we don't know where he came from and we don't know where he went. Right? He is this eternal figure, if you will, just like Jesus. Jesus is more like Melchizedek, whose origins are mysterious, right? Whose destiny is mysterious, right? In Jesus. Unlike the human high priests, right, of the Levitical line, who we know where they came from, they were born, they were selected, they ministered, and they died, and they were gone, right? Jesus is forever. His priesthood lasts forever. The offering of himself, which he does on the cross, in a certain sense, carries on forever, right? Think about this from a philosophical perspective, right? Our understanding of heaven. In heaven, there is no time, right? Where Jesus is, there is no time. He is eternal, right? His priesthood is eternal. When we were baptized, we were also baptized as priest, prophet, and king. Right? Priest, prophet, and king. We are united to the priesthood of the eternal new high priest. Right? Through the offering of the high priest, as the reading says, our sins are forgiven. Right? And we are called to our own destiny, our mysterious destiny, our eternal destiny. We are united with the priesthood of Christ. And therefore, when we are in time, as we are now, we share in that, and we offer our own offerings. We unite our own offerings of ourselves, just as Jesus did, and we unite them to the new high priest, Jesus. Right? So therefore, this is very practical. All of the challenges we have in life, all of our sufferings, all of our trials, all of our doubts, all the struggles of life are united through our own priesthood of offering them to the eternal high priest. And therefore, even though suffering is difficult, trials are difficult, they are meaningful. Even though rationally we can't understand it, they become meaningful as they are united with the one sacrifice of Jesus. Every time we come to the altar, every time we gather at the altar, we are not making a new sacrifice, but through the mystery of the liturgy, we are uniting ourselves through the priest presiding, but of all the gathering of all the priests, if you will, united in baptism and making our offering with God, to God, through the new eternal high priest. We've got a few more weeks of this, believe it or not. We'll continue our reflections on Hebrews as the liturgy unfolds. Just also like to remind you that we'll be doing another of our Franciscan online talks that'll be coming up on the 16th of November, thank you, Mr. Producer, November 16th, and you'll be getting invitations to that. You'll be seeing invitations or receiving one personally in the next week or so. So keep an eye out for that, and hopefully you can register for that. Next time we'll be looking at penance, Francis of Assisi as a penitent, and what does that mean? And especially as we enter into a season soon, we will be entering into a season of penitence as we prepare for Christmas, the great feast of the Incarnation. So until then, just remind you all that you are all our companions here. You're united. We're all united under this banner of St. Anthony, the companions of St. Anthony. Your needs, your hopes and dreams are remembered each day in the prayers here at the shrine and with the friars here at the friary. And we hope that God blesses you immensely. So until our next time, may God give you peace.